I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
I don't know if the second Wicked movie will change anything for the better, but they say it'll change us for good. And hey, we're all about synergy on this podcast, and since we've already done Zootopia, we're going to be doing another Oz movie.
But this one has one of our favorite things to talk about, Muppets!
Yeah, Muppets Wizard of Oz. This officially closes the book of the Disney Oz movie. We have previously done Return to Oz. That's episode 46, if you want to go back and hear our thoughts on that movie. And last year for Wicked Part 1, we did Oz the Great and Powerful, episode 261, for those of you who want to go back and listen to that. So now we do The Muppet Wizard of Oz, which was the first Muppet production to be done completely under the Disney banner. Disney at this point had bought the Muppets completely, and yeah, they were doing this. We've talked in the past Disney's history with the Wizard of Oz. Disney wanted to do Wizard of Oz right after Snow White, but the rights got sold to MGM, and MGM did their movie, and Disney tried to make one in the 50s with the Mickey Mouse Club. It never happened. Return to Oz, Oz the Great and Powerful, and this movie right in the middle of those two. This movie is kind of, at least in my brain, kind of the unofficial third movie of those Disney Muppet storybook movies like Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, and in my own brain, I consider this the third movie of that. Since, most people of our generation, when you think the Muppets, they think of those two movies. Anytime you hear any kind of Muppet meme online, it's always, hey, take a movie, replace keep one human and the rest of the cast is the Muppets. And it's like, well, that's Christmas Carol and Treasure Island. And this kind of fits that mold of, let's take a classic story, have one human character, and everyone else is one of the Muppets.
Yeah, and honestly, it's kind of interesting you mentioned that because the director of this film is our old friend Kirk Thatcher, who we've mentioned several times before. And he did at least one of those movies because, as we talked about in Muppet Treasure Island, he was the writer of Muppet Treasure Island.
And he's directed a couple of the movies. He did the TV Merry Muppet Christmas movie. He did the Muppets Letters to Santa movie. And he recently, even though it's a few years ago, he did the Muppets Haunted Mansion TV special.
Yeah, and he also did some of the episodes for Muppets Now. He's done lots of the viral videos that came out on YouTube years ago, including one of my favorites, which is the Muppets version of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know what we're talking about, go to YouTube and look up Muppets Bohemian Rhapsody. It is brilliant. So, yeah, man is a legend. Shout out to Kirk Thatcher. But, yeah, this is right there in that vein. And the one thing you can give this movie is that it is absolutely well directed. He really did a good job at it. He knows how to work with the Muppets.
It's probably why they've had him direct so many of these TV specials for the Muppets. And yeah, and this is not a theatrically released movie. This was done as a TV special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was part of the Wonderful World of Disney for ABC. So, TV movie. There are times when, yes, it feels like a TV movie because this did not have the budget of a theatrical film. And it shows mostly when they do anything CGI. Let's just be honest on that.
Kind of works in the favor, especially since most of the CGI is with the wizard.
Yeah, but it does pull you out of the film because the good thing about Muppets, and we've discussed this basically every time we talk about the Muppets, is that Muppets are known for practical effects, even when they mix it with computer generated stuff. I mean, the Henson Company has always been at the forefront of technology.
They were doing, working with CG up until Jim's passing. Even, Muppet Vision 3D had the first CG Muppet in it.
Yeah, but the thing is that they would blend the CG elements with actual puppeteering elements. It's like when VTubers use the kind of CG overlays to match body movements now. That technology has gotten so good that we can kind of use it in the consumer market. And the Henson Company was kind of at the forefront of developing those kind of technologies back in the day. And that was kind of the cool thing about it, was that there was still practical elements to it mixed with computer technology, which, side tangent, that is kind of one of the things where people are talking about the problems with generative AI. It's not that you can't use computer tools. We've got lots of artist friends, people who actually do hand-drawn artwork, animators and such. But they use computer tools. They use Wacom tablets and, all kinds of Photoshop elements and things to enhance their artwork. But the difference between that and something like, a Sora thing where you just put in a prompt and it tries to generate something based on plagiarized artwork, is that a human did most of the work and then a computer did some of the very nitpicky background work. It's the difference between,
I mean, yeah, there are a lot of the Oz elements that are CG that do not look good in this movie, like the outside of the Emerald City. The door, that's a set, that's fine. But when they're walking by the side of the Emerald City, or some of the Oz backgrounds that are just CG in front of a blue screen because it has to be blue because of Kermit, but they don't look good. They're clearly, this is a TV budget, and it looks like a TV budget.
Oh, while we're talking about it has to be a blue screen because Kermit, I'm just going to go ahead and say this before I forget. One of the greatest jokes in the movie, and I mentioned this to you off mic, is they are in the Emerald City, and much like in the book, the Emerald City is not actually emerald. It looks green because everybody wears green tinted glasses. And so Kermit gets to the Emerald City and his complaint is it's not green.
I mean, in the movie, the only reason he goes to the Emerald City is, oh, it's green? I'm all in. I guess it really is easy being green after all.
Well, apparently it's not, because if it was easy being green, the city would be green. They have to give people glasses, so apparently it's not easy being green. Kermit was right. You were talking about, most of the CGI stuff is the wizard, and it's not really their fault, because I know that it was 2005, and you're going to be hard-pressed to find CGI from 2005 that still holds up 20 years later. And yes, it hurts that this movie is 20 years old. And I think both of us realized that this is probably the first time we've watched this since this came on TV.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's really hard to find. And even right now, doing this, there is no official streaming platform for this. So you either have access to it or you don't.
You know what? We said that last year when we did Oz the Great and Powerful, it wasn't on streaming, and then after the episode came out, it was. So knowing our luck, when this episode drops, they'll announce that it's going to be on Disney+.
Yeah, but as of this recording, as we are recording this, it is not officially on anything streaming.
And I think the reason why it took so long for this to get on streaming, because this was a joint production. Now, granted, the two companies that worked on this are now owned by Disney, that being Disney and Fox.
And weirdly, this was one of the final things, I believe, that the Jim Henson Company actually worked on a mainstream Muppet line production.
This was the last. First under Disney, the final, main production that the Jim Henson Company was directly involved in. So yeah, this is the first under Disney, basically the last under the Henson Company. And you can tell that the Henson Company was involved with this. And we had talked about this off mic. Like, you can tell that this was not originally intended to be a Disney production.
Can we tell this was not originally intended to be a Disney Muppets production?
Arm rods!
Well, not just that, but yes, this still has arm rods in it. I have been trying to find out exactly when it became official policy to digitally remove all arm rods. I do know, thanks to a friend of the show, that there were some times in the Jim Henson Hour that they put blue screen wrapping on the rods to composite them out, because they filmed basically everything on a blue screen set there. But I am still, as of this recording, trying to figure out when it became official policy to remove all arm rods.
I want to say Muppets from Space, and that was still under the Henson banner, but that was just for, I believe so.
Thinking that it might have become official policy with the Muppets in 2011. So in trying to figure out when it became official Muppet practice to digitally remove the arm rods from the larger productions, I reached out to some Muppet experts on Blue Sky, and I did get an answer. It turns out that, as best as we can figure, and this comes courtesy of Tough Pigs and Muppet Wiki contributor Sock Drawer, and that is SOKDRAWER over on Blue Sky. And by the way, shout out to both Tough Pigs and Muppet Wiki, because as we've said, basically every time we talk about the Muppets, they are invaluable when doing our research for everything Muppets. So shout out to Tough Pigs and Muppet Wiki and all of their contributors. We are huge fans of their work. Great sites. Go, give them love and give them follows on social media. But thanks to Sock Drawer, who responded to my query about when this became the standard, and as best as we can figure, their answer was that while they did a little bit of it on, like I said, it was used for Jim Henson Hour. Shout out to our friend John Barry, who confirmed that. But according to Sock Drawer, they did it in Muppet Christmas Carol a little bit and all, but it looks like it became standard practice starting with Muppets from Space. So Tuesday, you win that bet. It does seem to become the standard then. It seems that pretty much most productions after Muppets from Space, at least the larger budget ones, started using it then, and then as it became cheaper and cheaper to digitally remove things, they began to use it in television productions and lower budget productions as well. So, go ahead.
Yeah, they would end up doing that. Since you said it became cheaper to do it, they did it in the Muppets 2015 show, and I think they also did it in the Haunted Mansion special and Muppets Mayhem.
Yeah. So I will, of course, die on the hill of Muppets should have arm rods. I'm very against digitally removing arm rods for the Muppets. It really annoys me that they keep doing that. We've talked about it before in other episodes, but it is interesting that it started that far back. So shout out to our friends over at Tough Pigs and Muppet Wiki, and especially to Sock Drawer for confirming that for us as best as we can get confirmation. So go give them some love and thanks.
But also, there are quite a number of jokes for grown-ups in this movie.
That was what I was really getting at with that question was you can tell that this is still the Henson idea of the mainline Muppets are for adults, but you can have kids in the room and kids can enjoy it, which we have talked about every time we have talked about the Muppets. If you are new to the program, that was the point of the Muppets as far as Jim Henson was concerned. The Muppets, the mainline Muppets, Kermit and Piggy and Fozzie and all those lovely Muppet characters that you can think of from the Muppet Show and all that, that was an adult program in the sense of it was aimed towards grown-ups, not adult in the sense that it was lewd or, vile in any way. But it was there to be geared at adults in the same way that the Flintstones was geared at adults or the Simpsons is geared at adults. But for the most part, you can have your children in the room while you're watching it, and you're not going to have to cover their eyes or plug their ears while it's on, because the adult jokes will go over the heads of the children.
Yeah, I mean, what other Muppet production would you see a reference to Girls Gone Wild? Or a Muppet using a mild swear?
Yeah, there are a few of those in here. I mean, there are some things that that Disney just probably wouldn't let them get away with now. Like when Pepe as Toto is first meeting Gonzo as the Tin Man, and Gonzo says, "Oh, I forgot my cell phone," and then switches out one nose for another. And Pepe says, "Wait, that's your cell phone?" And he says, "Yeah." And then Pepe starts playing with something on Gonzo's Tin Man chest, and he goes, "What are these?" And he goes, "Those are my nipples." And Pepe's like, oh, and like just kind of like backs away slowly. And I'm like, okay, it's not like a very crass joke, but you would not really find that in like a Disney production with the Muppets now.
Yeah, Muppets under Disney has straight up become family entertainment.
And
Not, like you said, the original Muppets was a show for adults that kids can be in the room and enjoy the show just as much as the adults do. Muppets under Disney is strictly family entertainment.
in the sense of it's aimed at kids and adults can be in the room. And that is a thing I think we've lost. And, we keep talking about doing a Muppets TV show that came on ABC and like doing a deep dive into that. And, dear listener, if you want us to do that, let us know and we'll move it to the forefront. But people were very upset when that came out because the people that have kind of grown up only knowing Muppets under Disney still have that idea of like, oh, Muppets is for kids, instead of like people of our generation, even though we grew up with Muppets as kids, I think we kind of understood that like it wasn't for us, we were going to grow into it. Like Sesame Street was for us. And Muppets, I think as a kid, I always felt like I was missing something with Muppets because my parents would laugh at things and I would go like, I don't understand why that's funny.
Yeah, there was that hierarchy of Henson. You have Sesame Street for the preschoolers. For the grade school kids, you had Fraggle Rock. And then you go to the mainline Muppets, where you're old enough to get some of the jokes.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can kind of watch all of those at basically any age, but your enjoyment of them is going to be flavored differently at the age you see it at. And I think with the mainline Muppets, as I was growing up as a kid, even though I loved the mainline Muppets, I always felt like there were jokes I wasn't getting. There was something I was missing. It's very much the, you'll understand it when you're older kind of thing. Whereas I think if I was watching mainline Muppet stuff now as a kid, like if I were a kid now and I was watching the current stuff that Disney has been putting out, I'm not sure I would have that same feeling. I would feel like this is made for me as a kid. And that kind of makes me a little bit sad because there was always something subversive to me about watching mainline Muppets as a kid. Because it always felt like I was in on a club that I shouldn't be in, you know? I don't know if
Yeah.
it felt like that to you as a kid.
I mean,
But whenever I was watching the Muppet Show or something as a kid, it kind of felt like I was being allowed a peek behind a curtain that maybe I shouldn't be there for, and that I was getting some kind of preview of something that would be like really cool one day. Like it was already neat, but like
mhm.
one day that was going to be just super awesome. And I was kind of right because I think my appreciation for mainline Muppets has only gotten better as I've gotten older.
Mhm.
Whereas things like Sesame Street or Fraggle Rock, I think I logically appreciate them more as educational tools and, you know, things that appeal to children on certain levels and serve certain purposes. But I think as I've gotten older, mainline Muppets really just speaks to my heart and soul more and more.
How many of us older millennials have gravitated more and more towards, Gonzo as a character?
Gonzo's just the best. Oh my god.
I've met so many Muppet fans in our age group that just maybe their favorite as a kid was Kermit or Fozzie or Piggy or whatever, but as we've all grown older, we more gravitate towards Gonzo because he was the weird one out, the one that didn't quite fit in, even among the weirdness that is the Muppets. He was the one that stuck out, and so many people identified with Gonzo.
Yeah, I mean, in a world of, you know, frogs and pigs and chickens and things, he's the whatever. If you grew up feeling like a whatever, Gonzo means something extremely important to you.
Even in this movie, he's not the Tin Man. He's the Tin Thing.
Yeah, I love that he's not the Tin Man and that Tin is an acronym.
It's their way of updating the story, and that does segue into one of the points I wanted to make. Is that they did everything that they could to not be the 1939 Judy Garland movie, because every single Wizard of Oz production since 1939 has always been compared to that movie. More people have seen the Wizard of Oz movie than have read the books. So it's like if you see the movie, you think you know the entire story, and then you read the book, and then you go, what is this? So I appreciate that this movie did everything they could to not be that, to tell the story and be, I'm going to say it, I know it's, I'm going to say this up front. This is possibly the most book accurate adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, because there are things in this movie that are not in the 1939 movie that are in the book.
Including the fact that Miss Piggy plays all four witches.
That is a nice, they could have put the other characters in there, but Piggy being all four witches was a nice touch. Giving the Wicked Witch of the West the all-seeing eye, which is in the books. Giving Gonzo the Tin Man's origin. He was once in love, and in the books it was the Witch of the East. In the movie here, it's the Witch of the West that turns him from a living being into a tin man or a tin thing here. Replaces all of his living parts with mechanical parts. In this movie, the tin thing is a robot. Straight up robot, not a hollow tin creature. Straight up robot.
Yeah, we meet him actually connected to a computer, and he's basically like Oz's version of Google.
Yeah. He works in a call center.
Yeah, he kind of does.
Crazy.
And it has one of the best jokes, which is Pepe's Toto has been getting fed up with Dorothy while they've been wandering around Oz. And so when he meets the tin thing, Toto says, "You can answer any question? Well, then tell me why women are so impossible to understand. And Gonzo thinks about it for a second and then says, like, well, it's because men are so simple. And Pepe goes like, oh, he does know everything. All right. It's like really smart.
Gonzo's not wrong, but there are some similarities to the 39 movie in that while not in black and white, the entire opening part in Kansas does have muted colors. It's very flat.
Much like Kansas.
I mean, I'm looking at it like, did I get the wrong link? No, that's intentional. It's very muted, very flat colors to kind of invoke that scene in that opening part of the original movie, where it's in sepia tone and switches to color later on. And we do get that transition in the movie. Once they go to Oz, it goes from flat colors to very full and bright colors, and it stays that way for the rest of the movie, even after Dorothy goes back to Kansas.
Yeah.
And the other aspect of the original movie is the Muppets exist in the real world. That is a major change, not only from the original movie, but from the original book. Dorothy wants to be a star. In this movie, the Muppets are holding open auditions across the country. They're in a tour bus. They're going across the country from state to state, trying to find new upcoming talent to showcase on their TV show. And they're making a stop in Kansas. Dorothy wants to audition for the Muppets for a chance to be on their show, a very American Idol style show that the Muppets have in this movie. And due to her working at her Auntie M's restaurant, not a farm, in this version.
Auntie M and Uncle Henry.
Yeah. Queen Latifah plays Auntie M. David Alan Grier plays Uncle Henry. I forgot to mention, but Ashanti playing Dorothy. Yeah, because she's working at Auntie M's diner, she ends up missing the audition.
She is able to get a CD with her demo track on it to Kermit. And it is interesting to watch the dynamic of Miss Piggy and Kermit as they meet her. Because Miss Piggy sees her come up and goes like, a groupie. No autographs. And Kermit is much more open to just like, who are you? What do you want? You know, why are you approaching us? And Miss Piggy is immediately like, you know, why are you approaching moi? You know, but Kermit does take the CD before the bus door closes. And of course that leads to, you know, spoiler alert, end of the movie where Kermit is like, oh, I listened to your demo track and you're really good. And
yeah, and then, you know, Kermit puts her on the TV show. So that's the end of the movie. So the change, this did cause a little bit of controversy at the time, is like changing Dorothy's motivation. Like, Dorothy doesn't even want to go home for the majority of this movie. She doesn't want to go home. She wants to leave Kansas. Kiki, I'm pretty sure you can relate to a young woman wanting to get out of her small country town and get out and see the world.
Yeah, that sounds slightly familiar.
So yeah, she resents her aunt. Her and her aunt get into fights for the entire first part of the movie, because why do you want to be a celebrity? You can sing anytime you want. You can sing down at the local karaoke place, but you want to be a celebrity, and being a celebrity isn't everything it's cracked up to be. And why don't you stay here in your little hometown and work at your auntie's restaurant forever? And she's like, no, you're holding me back, Auntie M. I want to be a star. I want to see the world.
You know, there is one thing that Queen Latifah's Auntie M says that is kind of a good line, because Dorothy says, you know, Auntie M, I want to leave Kansas. I want to go be a singer. I want to be a star. Auntie M says, now wait, do you want to be a singer or do you want to be a star? Because those are not the same thing. And Auntie M does have a point. You can be like a workaday musician, you know, singer, artist, whatever, and never be a star. You can even make your living at that and never be a star. So do you just want to be a star? Do you want to be working creative, and then maybe if you become a star, okay, Yes or no? I mean, there are people where it's like, man, where did they come from? They just suddenly popped up on the scene. People like Walton Goggins or Chapel Roan or whatever. And then you look back and you're like, no, they've actually been like hardworking creatives for years.
I mean, take a look at Lady Gaga. Back when she was just plain old Stephanie writing songs for other people, and then she decided I'm gonna sing my own songs, and then she became Lady Gaga.
Yeah, and I mean, there are people who, and like Bryan Cranston was one of those,
Yeah, he was just a workaday actor.
a voice actor. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
and
everyone knows the story. Bryan Cranston got his start doing voice work on Power Rangers.
yeah, and if you don't know the story, that's the story. I mean, if you grew up watching Power Rangers, you grew up with Bryan Cranston doing weirdo voices for half the monsters on Power Rangers. But one day he got an audition and got cast in, Malcolm in the Middle, and that kind of started him on a trajectory. And then he went from that into the vastly different Breaking Bad, and that really skyrocketed him. And people were suddenly like, where did this guy come from? And it's like, no, he's been like a working actor since like the late 80s, early 90s at least, And same thing with, people like Walton Goggins and everything. And then like, everybody's like, oh, Chapel Roan just came out with Pink Pony Club like 2 years ago. No, she came out with that like 10 years ago. It was just buried by a studio, And then she like got the rights to it back or something and released it on YouTube or whatever, and then it kind of hit big, and she re-released it on a different album, like under her own label or something like that. And now she's like one of the biggest acts in the world, But it wasn't like she just like one day was like, I'm gonna release a song, and 5 minutes later she's famous. Like, no, she'd been working at that for like 15 years or something,
Yeah.
So I loved that they put that in. Muppets has always had a way of being like, we're not telling you not to follow your dreams, but also make sure you understand what your dreams are.
Like, we have friends who are actors. There are background actors in TV shows. They do local stage productions. They are working actors. They just happen not to have that breakout moment that made them a star yet. Some never do. Honestly, most people never get that breakout role. Most musicians never get that breakout songs. Most actors never get that breakout role. But they can make enough just being a workaday actor to live, So that's the question that RTM is asking Dorothy in this story. Do you want to be a singer or do you want to be a star? And she gets that moment with the wizard. Now, granted, this is after he's been revealed to be a sham, but he's still the governing body of Oz, which means he controls all of the broadcast networks in Oz and gives her that spotlight. And the moment she's on stage, about to sing her song to the entire world of Oz, she doesn't do it. She says, stop. Because she didn't earn that moment. It was given to her by the person that controls all media.
Wait. You're telling me like one central company person controls like all the things, all the media things?
Are we sure this is a Disney production?
Yeah, I can't imagine Disney like putting something like that on screen.
Yeah. But in a way that kind of goes down the toilet when Kermit comes back to her anyway and says, yeah, I heard your demo and I want you on our show. And then she says, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to work in my aunt's restaurant. And then Auntie M has her big turn. No, you should go on the TV show. It's like, okay, so that whole thing you had at the beginning of the movie now means nothing. Make up your mind, girl. I want to say one thing before we go into the next thing here. We mentioned it. Pepe the King Prawn plays Toto. Dorothy has a pet king prawn in a goldfish bowl, and they explain it that Auntie M wouldn't let her have a dog, so she has a prawn that she rescued from the fryer. at the diner and put it in a fishbowl, and that's her pet. Pepe the King Prawn, who is performed by Bill Beretta. Bill Beretta, who at this point in Muppets history had taken over the role of Rolf the dog. Why is Rolf the dog not Toto in this story? Is it just because Pepe was a popular character? That's the only thing I can think of, is that Pepe was popular enough that they wanted him having a central role in this movie.
Yeah, I think that that's probably it. I think it's just there's more jokes to be had with Dorothy having an unusual pet as well. For most of the movie, Dorothy does not want to go back to Kansas when she ends up in Oz. And she's just trying to get to the wizard so she can become a star, a singing star. She's not trying to get back home. She's trying to get a career, you know? And there's one point in the movie where they kind of look at Pepe and they're like, hey, don't you want to go back home? And he's like, yeah, I live in algae covered fishbowl in a trailer park in Kansas. Yeah, I'm really aching to get back there.
And in this version, Toto stays in Oz. He does not go back with Dorothy back to the real world. Another change up from the 39 movie, accurate to the books. Oz is a real place. Oz is not a dream. So, yeah.
So here's the thing about Oz being a real place in the context of this movie. Yes, it is book accurate, because we've talked about that before in the other Oz adaptations, that in the books, Oz was a real place. It wasn't like, oh, it's just a dream. Oz is a real place that Dorothy can travel to. However, in this version, the one thing that it does take from the Judy Garland version is that the people in Oz are played by the people from the real world. And yes, Muppets are people. This is my hill and I shall die on it. So, we have a line at the beginning of the movie, and again, off mic, I kind of joked to you about this, where Dorothy wants to go audition for the Muppets, and she says, Auntie M, this is the Muppets. They're the most famous puppets in Hollywood. And I'm like, okay, in the world of the Muppets, who are the other puppets in Hollywood?
I mean, Barney, the Feebles.
But I mean, like, that's a legit question to me. Like in the world of the Muppets, as far as like in the movies and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they're never treated as puppets in universe. Out of universe, yes, they are addressed as puppets.
Yeah, Jim was always very, very clear about that.
There have been kind of fourth wall nudge comments, like Kermit will say, oh yeah, it's like puppetry. Puppetry? What's puppetry? Well, it's like a doll you hold on your hand and you make it wiggle around like it looks like it's alive. And then, like, Gonzo would say something, yeah, who would watch a show about dolls wiggling? And then Kermit would just look at the camera. Don't tell him.
And, like, the Muppet movie and stuff like that, like, Kermit is supposed to be legitimately a frog. You know, he's not a puppet, he's a frog. And the same thing in, like, the Muppets TV show on ABC. He's Kermit the Frog, he's literally a frog. He's not a puppet, you know? So it's interesting to hear in this in-universe thing, her refer to the Muppets as the most famous and powerful puppets in Hollywood. Because in-universe, they're not generally referred to as puppets. And the thing about the reason that like reusing actors in the 1939 movie works is that it was all a dream. But if Oz is a real place you go to, and the Muppets are like the most recognizable puppets in Hollywood, she's, you know, why wouldn't she come back and be like, hey, Kermit, I literally just spent however many days in like another part of the multiverse or whatever with a scarecrow that looked just like you. And Miss Piggy, I spent days with like 4 of you that all had magical powers, you know, like, you get what I'm saying?
That's the one thing I didn't like in terms of referencing the old movie by having the Muppets be in the real world and the characters in Oz. Like, I would have just removed the Muppets from the Kansas segment entirely. I get why. their version of the Wizard of Oz is Dorothy wants to be a star. And so you get the Muppets as the stars who are going to guide her and all that stuff. Blah, 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 blah. I get it. But I think there was a way you could have still had that Dorothy wants to be a star, and just have the Muppets be the characters in Oz without them being in the real world.
Yeah, I think I would have preferred that, since they had celebrity cameos in this, like they had, Kelly Osbourne, they had Quentin Tarantino, all that maybe they would have just had her like audition for a famous music producer, or to be a backup singer with a famous singer or something. And she's like, maybe I don't have to be a star. I can, work my way up or whatever. And then the singer's like, with talent like yours, you're going to be a star one day, but we'll get you started. And then it's got like hope or whatever,
Like, if the Muppets are going to do an American Idol style tour where they're going to find the next star, just get Simon Cowell. Or, you know what?
Yeah,
get meta. No, get meta. Have the star she's auditioning for be Ashanti.
Yeah, have her play the dual role in the real world.
Yes. Like,
but
Ashanti is auditioning new backup singers and opening acts and whatnot, and then here comes Dorothy, and then you have that dual role.
We talked about this being a joint production between Fox and ABC, and this was done in 2005. That was basically at the height of American Idol, which was airing on Fox at the time. So you're right that they could have gotten Simon Cowell or, Paula Abdul or, Randy Jackson or whoever was hosting the show at the time, and just been like, well, this is a co-production with Fox. Let's just use that IP,
Yeah.
And the thing is that Miss Piggy as the Wicked Witch of the West even goes into, I'm going to do reality TV now. So why not just make it a reality TV thing?
I mean, after she captures Dorothy, she says, well, if I'm going to take over Oz, I'm going to film her life as a reality show. It's like, that's just how it was. It's a little, early 2000s pop culture. It's everything has to be ironic, because it's like, that's the vibe that Ashanti is giving as Dorothy, and that's the vibe that Piggy as the witches are giving. It's like, look, kid, this is a fantasy world, and you got to follow the fantasy rules. It's like, did we need that? Did we?
Yeah, that was kind of one of the few things that I didn't entirely like, but I did like some of Miss Piggy's lines, because they did work Piggy's love of fashion into it. We've talked before about how, and I think most people know this, that the ruby slippers were an invention for the 39 film, because the Technicolor at the time couldn't really deal with silver slippers.
And green skin looks so much better on screen.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was, one of those things. But when Dorothy gets the silver slippers in this, they are like silver sequined spike heels. And it's not Glinda. It's actually the Good Witch of the North.
Teddy Pooh. Yeah, Teddy Pooh, which is the character from the book. She does not meet Glinda until the end of the book. She meets Teddy Pooh, the Witch of the North, in the book. They do keep the sisters aspect from the 39 movie. Only all 4 witches are now sisters.
Yeah, the thing is that when the Witch of the North comes in and is like, hey, take the shoes of my sister that you just squashed with a house. Dorothy is like, wait, you want me to walk all the way to your capital city? Like, I can't even take a bus or anything, which good for Dorothy. And she's like, and you want me to walk it in like really uncomfortable looking spiked heels.
She says later in the movie, these magic shoes are giving me magic blisters.
Yeah, but she's like, and you want me to walk all the way in spike heels? And I love that Piggy's like immediate reaction is, excuse me, those are Manolos, which is such a Piggy line to say. I love it. Like, I don't care if they're uncomfortable. I don't care if they're hideous. They are designer, my girl. Like,
I mean, yeah, and, the designs of the 4 witches are very fun. We have Teddy Pooh, the Witch of the North, looking like a traditional witch, but all white. We got the Witch of the East, no name, Nessa. Hey, Nessa, there's a house on you, girl. No name for the Witch of the East, but dressed in kind of lingerie, but lingerie for Piggy, like a negligee kind of thing. She also was wearing
Yeah,
it on
it's kind of a kimono kind of thing.
She's also wearing it on a billboard. When they first land in Oz, you see Piggy and wearing this outfit on a billboard. So it's assumed that this is her trademark outfit. A little bit of green because she has green gloves on. That's the closest thing we get to a green witch in this movie. So she has this kimono thing, she has green gloves, she has shades on her head, and that's the Witch of the East. And Piggy lifts because she can lift a stainless steel double wide over her head for like 30 seconds. Again, yeah, not a farmhouse. They live in a trailer park, adding to the I need to get away from this town vibe that Dorothy has. But
yeah, I mean, having spent part of my life in a double wide, accurate.
But to get back to my comment of the witch's outfit, the Witch of the West being badass biker babe.
Especially that aspect of Piggy as the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
But yeah, she has the magic all-seeing eye, which, like you said, that's from the book. And she's got it hidden under an eye patch.
Like in the book.
Also from the book. But unlike in the book, she's got an enchanted biker cap.
That is in the book. It's not a biker cap, but it is an enchanted cap. Whoever wears the cap controls the monkeys. That is from the book.
It's not a biker cap was my point. It's not, but I love that the flying monkeys in this version are a biker gang.
Yeah, and they're all like these side character Muppets.
And only one of them is a monkey.
Yeah, Brian Henson as Salmonella, the monkey, is the only monkey member of the Flying Monkeys.
At the end of the film, he's the one that gets the magic hat and becomes the leader of the Flying Monkeys. As it should be.
The monkey gets the cap, the monkey gets the cap.
I love that the Wicked Witch of the West, in this version, her allergy is not to water, it's specifically to tap water. She has to have, like, pure bottled water, like Perrier or something, because it's Piggy.
Piggy would take a bath in bottled water, because regular water cannot touch that skin. It would ruin her skin.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be like, distilled from the glaciers of, like that kind of thing.
And that's one thing I love is that all four witches each take an aspect of Piggy's own personality. Because you have the, hello everyone, I love you all, and that's Tatty Poo. And then you have like, I'm gonna knock you the next week, Frog, and that's the Witch of the East. And then just the real hiya part in that is the Witch of the West, and then there's the glamour, which is Glinda. And Glinda is just dressed like Piggy. Like, that's just regular Piggy with the feather boa and everything.
Yeah, and Glinda is the one we see least, which is...
Again, accurate to the book.
Yeah, I mean, they made her kind of the main thing in the 39 movie, but much like in the book, she just kind of shows up at the end and is like, yeah, you had the ability to get home all the time and click your shoes together. And
I do like, once Dorothy hears that, she just looks at Tatty Poo as like, really? Yeah, it's a lesson. You had the power within you all along. It's a fantasy world. Don't you know the rules? Which again, it's part of that sarcasm, we can't play it straight, of the movie that did annoy me. But it is in character for Piggy.
Like that, some of the little changes they made, like the Field of Poppies being a club, like a psychedelic club.
And the house band is the Electric Mayhem, and it's just called the Poppy Fields, and it's just, yeah.
Like we said, we don't think this was originally intended to be a Disney production necessarily.
It was intended to be on ABC. The Henson Company was trying to negotiate a new deal with Disney at this time for movies and TV shows and TV specials. It's just that Disney just said, we're just gonna buy the Muppets. Rather than negotiate a deal to release their productions, we're just gonna buy them out. So, yeah. Again, there's another reference to the book there. It's funny how they got around that how they got around to it, but yeah, the Munchkins in this movie are Rizzo and the Rats. And in the original book, when they fall asleep in the poppy field, they come the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, not being human, are not affected, like in all other versions of the story. So little field mouse starts running, is being chased by a wild cat. The Tin Man takes care of the wild cat with his axe. Yeah. And the field mouse is so thankful. Turns out she is the queen of the field mice and gets the other mice to carry Dorothy and the lion out of the poppy fields, which they do in the movie. It's the Munchkins. The Munchkins even tell Pepe and Dorothy, if you ever need us, just sing this song and we'll come running. And Pepe sings the song, and instead of the field mice like in the book, it's the Munchkins, the rats, carrying Dorothy and the lion out of the poppy fields. It's a nice little wink and nod reference to the book in that regard. One last reference to the books here. Where are they? The Kalita critics, Statler and Waldorf as the Kalita critics. The Kalitas are characters from the books that do not appear in that classic movie. It was nice to have them in the movie, that little reference, and them being them. In Statler and Waldorf being the critics that they are, criticizing the four characters for trying to cross the bridge. In the books, they were just these monsters, body of a bear, head of a tiger that just gave chase to them. And it is the Tin Woodsman that chops down a tree, allowing them to get over the ravine, and then chops the tree once they're all across, and then the Kalitas fall into the ravine to their demise. Tin Man does a lot of killing in the original Oz books.
Well, he's got that axe.
But that little sly reference to the book by having the Kalita critics in the movie. That's my little talk about things they added from the books into their version of the movie. But I want to talk. Let's get to, because this is a musical. So let's talk about some of the songs that are in the movie.
Well, it was a musical, and there were 5 original songs written for it. Excuse me. There were 5 original songs written for it, and guess who wrote the songs?
Well, who wrote the songs?
It's our old pal Michael Giacchino. Towards the early part of his career, it was he had already gotten an Emmy for Lost, so it's not like this was his first thing. It wasn't even his first thing for the Muppets, honestly. But this is I think that the first time he really got into something that people remember. He had done the video game Muppet Monster Adventure before this.
That's one way to get your career started, is, doing soundtracks for shovelware games.
Well, I mean, that wasn't how his career started. That was just his first project for the Muppets. But he, like I said, they did 5 songs for this one, and then they chose one of those songs to submit for an Emmy nomination. Can you guess which of the 5 songs was submitted for the Emmy nomination?
I'm going to say the ending song, Good Life.
No, it's actually the one, When I'm With You, which is the one where it's kind of the, like, if I only had a brain, a heart, the nerve, that kind of song that's in there. It's the one that Dorothy, Scarecrow, Tin Thing, and Cowardly Lion sing together, or in Toto. So it ended up losing. Do you know what it lost to?
No, what did it lose to?
It lost to another musical that I think you have heard of. It lost to the musical Reefer Madness, which I love, and if you, dear listener, have never seen, please go look up the musical Reefer Madness. There's a song called Mary Jane, Mary Lane in that, and that was the one that won the Emmy for music and lyrics that year.
I love you, Mary Jane.
Yep. No, it's a great song, and it's honestly better than any of the songs in this. But I'm not saying they would have won if they'd have nominated a different song, but you know which song I would have nominated?
The Witches in the House.
Witches in the House! The villain song that Piggy gets to sing as the Wicked Witch of the West. And that song is a banger. It is the best song in the movie. And the only one that kind of sticks with you, in my opinion.
I'm just gonna say that this did come out in 2005, and yeah, Wicked was on Broadway a few years earlier. So giving the Wicked Witch a banger of a song to sing is kind of the in thing.
I'm just going to say, though, like, Disney had just bought the Muppets, and Disney has that history of banger villain songs. So this is your villain song in the movie. It's got to be a banger, and it is. I mean, especially compared to everything else in the film. I mean, we've talked before about how much we like Michael Giacchino's work. He wrote the best 38 seconds of music in all of history. This, not his best work. He was still learning, you know, but I really do like The Witches. That's going to go on my normal rotation, I think, now.
I mean, it works so well because it just, like, it perfectly describes Piggy's version of the Wicked Witch. It is in character for Piggy. You know, I'm the star here, not you. You've only been here 5 minutes and you're already a has-been, you know. Even getting somewhat meta, claiming that she is the real star of this TV special. And it's just, it works so well as a villain song. Like, if you had never seen this movie and I would have told you there is a Muppet movie where Piggy is the villain and she gets a villain song, you would be like, I want to watch this movie right now. Piggy villain song. And, you know, as of this recording, we just found out that Disney has a Miss Piggy movie in development.
Yeah,
So,
that news dropped like 24 hours before we recorded.
So it's like that. If they are to give Piggy another banger song in that movie, if that movie ever happens, more power to her. I hope they give her a banger song to sing in that one. You mentioned one of the cameos, and like, it is probably the weirdest and out of left field cameos is the cameo by Quentin Tarantino, because they start this fight. It's a fight scene between the Witch of the West and Dorothy. Dorothy has been able to escape thanks to the Munchkins, and they're going to throw down. And then it just cuts to an office, and there's Quentin Tarantino describing the fight scene between Dorothy and the witch to Kermit, as if Kermit wants Tarantino to direct this movie. And he's describing Kill Bill. Like, that's another one that you know that this was not intended to be a Disney production. Disney in a family movie referencing Kill Bill.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, they come on and they're going to throw out these samurai swords and they're going to have this big anime fight scene. As like, I know what you're doing, Quentin Tarantino. You are referencing Kill Bill. Sidebar, do you plan on seeing the Kill Bill whole story edit that's
Whole Bloody
coming out?
Affair.
Yeah. Both movies edited
yes,
as one movie.
Because there has been rumors of that supposed to be coming out for like since the second movie hit theaters.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for it to come out since the second movie hit theaters.
So we're finally getting, and it's unrated, so we're actually going to see the unrated version of that Crazy 88 fight scene, which I've been wanting to see for years.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love that film, and I have been wanting to see it in its full format. So yeah, I mean,
that's really the only reason that's the only reason I bring up Tarantino's thing, because it's just he's describing Kill Bill, the scene between Uma Thurman and Daryl Hannah. It's like, that's the only reason I brought it up. But like, we haven't even really mentioned Fozzie as the lion. And it's the way they wrote the lion was perfect, because again, it takes the courage aspect and put it into him wanting to be a performer himself. You know, it goes back to Fozzie being a comedian. And in this world, the lion wants to be a comedian, but he has stage fright. So he has to go to the wizard to overcome his fears. And yeah, and you know, again, I don't need to tell you the story of the Wizard of Oz. You already know it, dear listener. So that was a nice twist on the lion's journey.
I do like that when we first meet the Cowardly Lion, the first member of the group he sees is Pepe, and he screams and he goes, "A shrimp!" And Pepe's like, "King prawn." And he goes, "Ah, a prawn!" I do like the idea of Fozzie as the Cowardly Lion because Fozzie is the stand-up comedian in the group, and stand-up comedy is one of the most courageous line of work as far as just putting yourself out there. I mean, I have such respect for the courage of anybody who will get up on stage and put themselves in that position. I mean, my respect goes up and down depending on what you say once you have the mic in your hand, of course. But there is a great deal of courage involved in just being alone on stage and trying to do one of the most difficult things in the world, which is trying to make an entire room full of people laugh at the same time. Because humor is so subjective.
And they have him, if you're a longtime Muppet fan, it's almost cathartic to see Fozzie face off against Statler and Waldorf and win. To go back to the critics, you have to cross the bridge and they're going to heckle you. They heckled Dorothy. And then they get to Fozzie, and they're talking how unfunny he is and how he wants to be a comedian and all that, and he's terrible at it. And it's honestly one of my favorite parts of that twofold because, yes, it's Fozzie finally standing up against Statler and Waldorf, not verbally or physically. He's just walking past them. And I love that it's Gonzo that reaches out to him. Because it's part of the courage, but it's also part of the heart. Gonzo goes out, he reaches his hand out to Fozzie, and he tells him, "Don't listen to your critics. Just keep going." That is my favorite moment in the movie. And it's between these two characters.
Don't read the comments.
Exactly. Don't read the comments. And I love that part because it shows the heart of the Tin Man, the courage of the lion. And it shows Fozzie overcoming his critics, which is something any Fozzie fan has always wanted to see. And, just to wrap up our human cast, Jeffrey Tambor as the Wizard of Oz does a good job at it. In this version, he's not a carnival magician. He's just a dude from Hollywood that drove a tour bus that landed in Oz. It works. The way they explain in the movie, it's fine. And I think he does a great job playing the charlatan wizard. Like, hey, I'm giving you this time on TV even though I control all the networks. I'm from Hollywood and we always keep our promises there. He comes out wearing the world's worst wig on top of his bald head. I love how intentionally bad that wig looks.
Yeah.
The difference in this version, though, is that the wizard is still in power at the end of the story. The wizard doesn't go back to the real world. He stays there. That is a major change in the story. In the original story, the wizard is proven to be a fraud and is going to take Dorothy home in his balloon. And then, I'm going to leave the Scarecrow and Tin Man and Lion in charge while I'm gone. You all know that part. But it is very interesting that in this version of Oz, the wizard stays. The wizard is still in command. There's no change in the hierarchy. The only change is that two of the witches are dead. And the wizard now has the all-seeing eye. Congratulations, Dorothy. You gave a corrupt leader even more power. Yeah, they're not afraid of him anymore, but he's still in charge. So there you go. So I think that's all we have to say about the Muppets Wizard of Oz. So, Kiki, does the Muppet Wizard of Oz have the magic?
I mean, it's not the greatest of Muppet productions, but it's still Muppets. So, yeah.
I'm going to give the movie credit, like I said. For all the changes they made to the original story, it's still the most book-accurate Wizard of Oz movie they've ever made. I think Ashanti's acting needed work. That's my only real complaint about the movie, is I think Ashanti did not have the acting chops to play Dorothy. I know why they put her in here. She was a popular singer at the time. She was trying to transfer into acting. I don't think it worked in here. There are some tug on your collar moments, some cringy moments, like the mentions of like Girls Gone Wild, like the CG woman turning into a chicken and making Gonzo all hot and bothered, which works in character, but it's like, this is a bit of a cringy moment. I'm going to agree with you then that this is not the best Muppet movie. It's not the worst either. I feel bad saying it. I probably won't come back to this version of Wizard of Oz, but I'm going to say Magic because they did everything they could to not make this like any other version of the Wizard of Oz, and I will commend them on that, so I will say Magic in there. Kiki, next week is our 6-year anniversary of doing this podcast.
Yay!
Amazing. And we are going to be celebrating it by going back to a franchise that we both love, the Marvel franchise, and a movie that you and I grew up watching, Howard the Duck. As Howard the Duck has now become a character in the MCU, we will be going back to the first feature film appearance of Howard the Duck. Yeah. And this was a George Lucas film, so that's going to be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So come back next week for Howard the Duck, and we will talk to you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Don't let the magic stop here.
Keep the conversation going. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic.
We are also on Blue Sky, rewatchingthemagic.bsky.social. And new episodes are available at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com and youtube.com/@rewatchingthemagic. Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.
We know that right now, things are tough.
But in the words of Jim Henson, the only way the magic works is by hard work. But hard work can be fun.
Check out our show notes for ways that you can help.